And so I've been very blessed. Did economic development 4 different cities across Texas up until 2818, and I left, and we started Day One Experts, which is a fractional economic development business, and was fortunate enough and blessed to have Fairview as a client in 2019. So it's kind of funny. I was just talking to Julie, the town manager, and she was saying, I guess it's time we take the interim off. Really, it's been a good fit for us. We do fractional economic development. We do what they need and provide the services they need. But a fraction of the cost. And so when you have a fast-growing community that maybe doesn't have the resources that they need, but for the experience that they need, that's where we come in. And so we bring not just me, but we have a team of experts. So we solve a lot of different problems. I always say I don't have to be the guy that knows everything. I just know everybody that does know how to solve those problems. And so that's what we do.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about what should, if I'm moving to Texas, and I'm deciding to come to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I decided, hey, I'm going to go ahead and make it to one suburban area part of DFW. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing to help welcome them over to Texas.
Yeah. So obviously the Metroplex, well, Texas in general is very business-friendly. It's growing like crazy. Every metro area is growing. Dallas-Fort Worth is no different than that. We have a very diverse population. I don't think people realize when we say diverse, they may think 5 or 10 different, sort of countries or things in their mind. I guarantee there's over like 230 different countries, and like if you need somebody that speaks a certain language, you can find them in the DFW region.
That's right.
And so it's a very diverse region and population. In our corner of the Metroplex here in sort of North Dallas, North Texas, Fairview has this sort of cool country vibe. So we're in the middle of Collin County, which is one of the fastest growing counties in the country. And we've carved out our little space of sort of this, you get this sort of, what I tell people is you get the Longhorns in the backyard and your Whole Foods in the front yard, right? Like literally you're 5 minutes from Whole Foods, Macy's, Dillard's, you have this great shopping experience, but literally you cross Highway 5 and you are now, on 1, 2, 5 acre lots. You have cows and llamas, and in fact, some of our demographics we kind of tease. We've got X number of people plus 3 Longhorns and 2 llamas, and it just doesn't fit with Collin County what people think about. And even on our podcasts on Getting Neighborly, we talk to people about why they live here and what it is that kind of is special about Fairview. And they all talk about crossing Highway 5. And, come off 75, you're a mile to Highway 5. And then when you cross Highway 5, it's like, their blood pressure goes down, their beats per minute go down, and they just relax a little bit, right? And so we're very fortunate that we have that. But where we are in this corner, we have 121 and 75. Very prominent corner in North Dallas's growth. So you've had all the growth up the toll road that continues in Plano and Frisco, which, by the way, we're only 20 minutes away from the PGA, the Star, Toyota, all of these great, wonderful corporate build-outs that we're seeing. We're now on 75 and seeing the growth come up 75. And so, it's not just that corner, but now you have the stuff that's going on in Sherman-Denison, which is almost in Oklahoma. It's an hour from here. But TI and all of the chip manufacturing stuff that's happening there, that growth is now marching south. And so from our intersection at 75 and 121, you have all of these different home styles, right? So if you're a CEO and you can afford 5 acres and your $3 million home and in the country right here in Collin County and you're 5 minutes from your office, awesome. But now you need homes for your middle managers and those. So we have, Frisco, Plano, McKinney. And then, okay, well, what about my frontline workers and the sort of those entry home prices? Well, now you got Melissa and Anna and Princeton. Yeah. So from all of those areas, you're 15 or 20 minutes. So you have a diverse housing option for that. And so what we do is try to just shine a light on that lifestyle, right? So Fairview is a little bit smaller community. We don't have the retail sales tax that Allen and McKinney and Frisco, Plano does. So we really target the small to mid-sized businesses, kind of grow your own. It's a little less affordable on our side of the street from an office standpoint. Gives you good frontage, but without the pricing. And again, if you can afford it, you can live in Fairview and be 5 minutes from your house. And so that's kind of what we help them find, is that you don't have to lock yourself into the sort of the urban jungle of the other towns that you face.
Big city feel in a smaller town.
Yeah. It's really, and so it is the town of Fairview, right? For a reason. It's very intentional. We have said as a community we're not going to do commercial growth east of 5. So we have this nice business corridor from Stacy Road up to 121, between 5 and 75 that we're building out. Lucy Billingsley has bought both sides of the intersection at 121, Sloan Corners.
That's right, yeah.
Massive opportunity. So she's going to build out some multifamily and office, a little bit of retail. You have the hospital in McKinney that's just across the street.
Right.
That's on like phase 4 of its expansion, just continues to blow up. Allen's still developing their 121 corridor, and they just keep having different developments come in. And so, from our side of the street, we're putting in Fairview Crossing, Fairview Parkway, and then now on the Allen side, they will take will cross Ridgeview. They're redoing that overpass right now. Ridgeview will run all the way from Highway 5. You'll see, or from Fairview Parkway all the way over to 121. So all this infrastructure is going in place to help the traffic and congestion. All of it's a good sign for us in that we're investing in infrastructure that's going to continue to allow us to build out and add people and yet still maintain that country sort of small town feel. I hate to say small town, it's community feel.
So as far as I know you mentioned the overpass, when is kind of the estimated completion time for
Gosh, man, they should finish, I think another 3 or 4 months. They're finishing up probably second quarter of this year. Fairview Crossing should finish up April-ish, and then they'll start on Fairview Parkway, and so that'll take about a year. And I think the Billingsley stuff will kick off later this year. That'll be a year to 18 months build out on her first phase.
So I know the Sloan Corners is bringing in a lot of the commercial retail out there, right? Retail, multifamily, and whatnot. Are there any other multifamily or retail projects that's other than the Sloan Corners coming?
Yeah, so in the Fairview Town Center, Lincoln really, when they bought the town center, they really reimagined that. The center was built in 2008, 2009 for a different landscape and from a retail standpoint, right? And so and then of course it was 2008, 2009 when it comes on. Couldn't have been a better time for that. So it's been a little bit of a challenge over the decade to kind of find its footing, but now Lincoln has bought it, reimagined it, taken some of that space, and they're actually putting in 400 units of multifamily in the center itself. So that's going to add some density. We have Lark's Entertainment that's under construction. We've had several restaurants, Goats and Bubbles Cafe. Path 314 is now open and going. So you have more retail options coming in. We have a cigar lounge coming. So you have
place out there.
Yeah. So you've got Gloria's and the Hibachi place and Boomer Jack's. Wild Sauces, it's going to be reopened as a different restaurant, but that's another restaurant. The retail in here, so Dillard's, Penny's, they continue to be really one of the top performing stores for those chains here in Fairview.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So and it's kind of quiet. People think there's not much going on because there's so much parking out between the center and Stacy Road.
Yeah.
And again, center was built for a different time, and so we're looking at how do we do some of that parking and bring in some pad sites. That's a little there's a discussion because now you've got to talk to the big box stores own that sites, and so there's a little bit of discussion about what to do with that real estate. And but yeah, so there's plenty of opportunity coming. We're seeing if you come into the center, the Fairview Youth Theater has weekly or nightly rehearsals, and so the center is like really full at night, and so it's a kind of interesting little gym here that people don't realize because from Stacy Rose it kind of looks like it's empty, but you got to come into the center, right?
Take a look,
and so we're slowly kind of reimagining that center. It's coming back. We've just landed a new office building. It's a 98,000 square foot office facility. They've got their first tenant, just like 10 or 15,000, and they're building out some office suites, and they've got an LOI on a larger space. So that looks, it's really good. We have some townhomes looking.
Yeah, that's on the corner, right? Of kind of 75 and Stacy, kind of.
Well, the office center sits back behind the Fairview Town Center. And so we're the Boy Scouts of America. If you know at Ridgeview,
Yeah.
they just kind of have that turn in.
Yeah.
So it's kind of right there. It's on the tracks, but it's walkable to the town center. It's right behind Whole Foods, so you can walk over to Whole Foods or all the restaurants. So great in and out for a business. And again, you're talking about lease rates that are probably $22 to $24 a square foot. So you get 75 frontage, but at a much different price range.
Yeah, that's very good actually.
For the small to medium sized business that's growing, that's perfect.
Right, no, exactly. That's
And it gives them
affordable.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Especially in Collin County, right?
Yeah.
No, it's getting costly. I mean, some of the base rates on retail that we've seen on 121 are like, high 30s. Everyone wants to start at like 38, 40,
Yeah.
plus triple net.
Yeah, so one of our clients is, Melissa. We work for Melissa, and some of the quotes that are being quoted for retail space up there, you're like I took a double check. I'm like, that can't be right.
Yes.
And I called them, and sure enough, I mean, the rates are it's just interesting right now. It's a good fast pace, which is a good sign, right? All signs pointing, when you're on our side, that's great, right? Not if you're trying to rent the space.
Right. No, you want to keep it affordable.
Good investment opportunities.
Oh, incredible investment opportunities.
It's funny because you just explained my house a minute ago. I'm going through it in my head. I live on 3.5 acres just east of here. And this neighbor, I'm looking at longhorns. That neighbor, I'm looking at a donkey. And, we live on a few acres ourselves. But one amenity that's also a true benefit is the airport that you had mentioned.
Yeah.
Well, not too far away. Short drive.
Yeah,
And
it's a corporate airport, right?
Yeah.
So and they have plans. McKinney has plans for what might become, and we'll see if they are able to materialize that. But again, if you're a corporate and you want to store your corporate jet, it's a perfect place. And you want to live 10 minutes from your corporate jet, Fairview's awesome for that.
Right.
It's a different experience.
Hopefully the expansion happens to the international airport, then that's a whole different story, right?
Well, and so we're about 35 minutes from DFW Airport, 35 minutes from Love Field, those two, and then like I said, the McKinney Airport's 10 minutes.
Right.
It's hard to keep in it country and grow an airport just north of it. So that's been kind of a dilemma.
Yeah, we have to. That's what we, as economic developers, kind of have to balance that. Growth and progress, and you don't want it to change. And so we try to invest in, or we invest in community type events that bring people together. The whole Getting Neighborly podcast was meant so that people know who they're living next to. And that's really what ties people together, is that community feels knowing your neighbor, right? When I had people, when I worked at Frisco, 150,000 people, and they would say, well, we're going to lose our small town. I'm like, you're 150,000 people. You don't have a small town, right?
That's over.
But the city did a great job of investing in community. Allen is very much the same way. Highly engaged, wants the communities to know one another and he wants people to know each other, and that's what you get in our Allen Fairview little part of the Collin County, is communities that are committed to bringing people together.
So you had mentioned something about bringing the community together. Now, what all kind of things or events or activities that are kind of being taken place to bring the community together, whether it be the folks that's already in the 3 acres or 5 acres, the country, the rural side, mixing it with the townhomes and the multifamily that's going on. So how's that?
Yeah, so we're fortunate that the Fairview Town Center is owned by Lincoln. They have a programming person who does music nights. They'll do Friday and Saturday night events. They'll do different things. They have Christmas, all those around different holidays. They're putting on events to draw people into the town center. So we're able to draft off that. Again, Fairview is a very small community when it comes to the government side. We have one of the lowest tax rates in Collin County, with full police and full fire. So we're very lean. And so we leverage. We work with Allen, their public library, so our citizens can use their library. So those events go into the town newsletter. We leverage the chamber, Allen Fairview Chamber. Again, it makes sense to partner together instead of having on our own. So those are the kinds of things that we work with to try to find that place. We do the We Inspire TX. It's a women's entrepreneur summit. Again, we know that there are women entrepreneurs working from their home in our town, It's just how do we get them out and encourage
Right.
them to go. What our dream is to get them out of the garage or their office into a small Venture X office that just opened, and then we want to grow them out of that over into the office, right? And we want them to kind of have that same life span, and then we want them to reach back and teach other people how to do that.
Right.
We have the Lovejoy School District, so we support and do things with Lovejoy ISD. We also have McKinney ISD, so we're sort of a unique community in that we have 2 school districts.
Yeah.
So when people come in, they need to kind of know where those school district lines are. Now McKinney is a little less, they don't necessarily need us to support them. It's a massive school district. Lovejoy is a little smaller community-filled school district. And,
Tell us a little bit more about Lovejoy, because I know many people heard about it or understand it, but they don't really get the benefits of Lovejoy.
yeah, so Lovejoy is,
the ranking is
I would say it's one of those high-quality school districts that's not massive, right? So it has a community feel to it. But the quality programming from sports to academics, very high standards, right? And Katie, the superintendent, Katie Correll, is one of the top leaders in education in the state. Truly, if you look at the state rankings, it's always near the top in just about every category.
For sure.
Again, it's small enough that everybody kind of knows everybody, which some people love that, some people don't. But for Lovejoy, that's kind of their bread and butter, is that they know the students and they can really invest in them.
Yeah.
They don't invest in, it's not a ton of different, every program imaginable, but the things that they do very, very well. And so people love it. We want to people, right now they don't know what town that's in. They think Lovejoy is a town, and it's not, right?
Right.
So we work really hard to sort of connect the two, Fairview and Lovejoy. We want people to know that, even though it covers Lucas and some of Allen. We want to own that sort of brand. We want to marry it because it is such a great brand.
So gettingneighborly.com, that's where it came from, right?
Well, yeah. So that's kind of the whole idea, right? Is that thought process of we're neighbors here, right?
Yeah, right.
And we want to work together.
Right.
I want to give you credit that you don't often take for yourself. You were instrumental in providing my children with dual credit hours. And so because Dave's so involved in the community, in meetings with Collin College, now this is the first year my junior is actually taking dual credit at Lovejoy.
That's
And
awesome.
Alan had it, it was great, but in a conversation that we had a year and a half or so ago, like that, the town of Fairview committed to those conversations, and it made it possible for my daughters. So
Yeah, it's
That's fantastic.
And that's a really cool, having 2 kids, I have one in college that's just about to graduate, and then one that's about to go into college. That's an extremely valuable benefit.
Oh yeah. I mean, my daughter just took
$350
the
a
test.
semester.
Yeah, right. So being able to knock those out for $100 or whatever it
Right.
is, it's almost
For sure.
Inexpensive.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
know that's something. My
inexpensive.
daughter is in 8th grade right now, so she just took the exam and all for getting
Yeah.
into the dual credit. So it's
Yeah.
not the program.
Mine will have 12 hours, by the time that she graduates from Lovejoy, and so that's
that translates into real money, right?
Absolutely.
Depending on where they want to go.
You
so.
bet.
So I know that you guys all know about the dual credit hours. I know your kids are too young, and you might or might not know about
Yeah,
it.
my
But can you just explain what that is?
Yeah,
and
so
how it's
the school
beneficial?
district works with Collin College, and you might take English, for example. We got to take English in high school, and then you also have to take it in college. What dual credit allows you to do is take a college level class that fills the need for your English at the high school level, but then when you graduate, college also counts. And so let's say that class is normally, $100 a credit hour. If you're there, it maybe for the dual credit, it's, $150 and you get all 3 credit hours. And so you can there's some programs where you can actually exit high school and have an associate's degree where you got half your college already if you start kind of young enough.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a tremendous value to the parent who you're already paying college taxes because you're in Collin College district. So now you're able to leverage that and get your kids college ready in classes that then when they come out, they don't have to take that freshman year. They're sort of coming in as a sophomore, and you start talking about fees and credits and everything that's on top that they stack on top of the class. that saves the parent a lot of money.
Even commutability, because my daughter's got College instructors there on campus for Lovejoy.
Yeah,
and
that's what
so
we do too.
That's huge, and so having the instructors there is a huge benefit for them. Plus, I think it helps with the transition in a mature level, right? To go from a smaller school in a smaller town, their graduating class is about 330, and is about where they are, and it will cap out about 350 on a graduating class. But to go from that to a big campus, I could see a possible failure rate, right?
It is.
So for them to be able to transition in, and then Colin now is growing leaps and bounds. They've got 5 or 6 now bachelor degrees, so you can actually get your bachelor degree from Colin College. So it's been a great partnership.
And to your point, high school is so much different than college in that in high school you have someone sort of helping you, like reminding you and sort of coaching you along. The college professor is they're getting paid whether or not you learn or not.
Right,
They're not
right.
worried about you, right? And that sounds harsh,
But that's reality.
but that is reality.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times kids get to the college campus, they're used to having somebody sort of backstop their, now they don't. And so when kids go into the dual credit program, they sort of get a feel for what that's like. And they're just a little bit better prepared when they actually do go to college because they've been through a college class. It's just set up a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't mean to be harsh, but that's they don't.
Yeah.
I don't think they're overt about it, but that is something that's just a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of emphasis on these community colleges now. The last 5 years, there's been a lot of pump, on the 2-year programs and what are we doing to really get students out of the classroom into a program that's actually going to deliver some real, salary. We're going to get some real good pay to pay for this type of lifestyle, because the 4-year program, unfortunately, is sort of getting a little bit of negative press here recently because you commit to that 4 to 6 years of college and you may not actually produce anything from
Right.
that, and so I think having these development partnerships and all the development that's coming to Texas overall is helping fund all these campuses and expansion.
So one of the things to answer that question is companies coming in, their number one question they talk about is workforce, right? The workforce today and the workforce tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily worried about 4-year degrees. They're worried about this specific skill set and those sort of things. And get them here with this, and we'll train them specifically what we need. So those 2-year programs are getting a little more robust and more important.
Right.
And what we're lucky is that there's so many people moving to Texas. So it's not just companies moving here. What we found, especially coming out of the pandemic, people were like, I want what's there. It was a stark difference when you lived, let's say, in the Northeast or in California. You experienced COVID much different than people in Texas did. And it's not a knock on it, it's just and so they were like, hey, wait a minute, I can work anywhere. I see what my friends that have made the move before me are like, I want to go do that too. And so we're seeing those people move in, which now companies are going, well, gosh, look at where all the people are moving. If I need workforce, I want to be in a place that's attracting people, not losing people.
Right, and it seems like DFW is going to end up becoming in the next 10 years, 15 years. It's going to be a megaplex, right?
Yeah, so you have this again. We have Sherman Dennis and MSA kind of growing down toward Dallas Fort Worth. You have Houston moving up the triangle, and then Austin and San Antonio, which have kind of already grown together. Now they're coming north. You've got Temple and Waco in the middle that are blowing up, and so you're just seeing this
One big
triangle that's kind of growing. It's going to be, it's going to be hard to distinguish. You're going to be, used to you would drive and you would go into the country for a little while and then you would go into a city. Pretty soon you're just going to have, all one sort of development.
Yeah, because right now, I think DFW is supposed to surpass the LA Metro by 2028. I think something along that line, right?
Yeah.
Which making it the second largest metro.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
And Collin County is supposed to exceed Dallas County in population by 2060.
Well, yeah.
So, I guess Dallas is going to become a suburb of Collin County at some point, if you will.
If you talk to the planners at the regional level, it gets really scary when you talk about how many homes are on the ground and how fast we can build them, and then what the population is doing. So you want to know, well, why are they trying to build so many apartments or townhomes in the density? We have to. We can't. We don't have enough land to do single family housing for everybody. So they've got to go somewhere. So you need the density, and of course that's a challenge for communities to try to figure out how to get that. But if you want affordable housing, and that's affordable housing means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but you've got to have this mix of density and different types of home supply townhomes, the mix you have to in order to meet the demand that's coming.
So, bro, you brought up a great point, which is affordable housing. One of the things about Fairview is it does have a little bit of a older median age, right? How are you guys trying to attract the younger crowd? You know, this way the elementary schools can be supported and the middle schools and all that. So what is kind of that plan in place to attract? I know you said some of, but like some of the apartments and multifamily and all, is that going to be enough to gap the already older kids? And
Yeah, that's a little bit of a
elementary schools that's in place.
That's a great question. It's a little bit of a challenge for a community our size to try to solve for.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the city is saying, here's what the land prices are.
Right.
It's supply and demand. You build a place that everybody wants to be in,
Right.
there goes the demand,
For
right?
sure,
And so
for
that's
sure.
how it goes. And the supply is what the supply is. We're almost at build out now.
Right.
There's just a few acres left for single family home development. So we had to have the multifamily coming in. But we had planned for that 20 years ago.
Right.
This Billingsley development, it was pre-planned that this is what it was going to be. We didn't know who was going to do it. We just knew this was a great corner for that type of lifestyle. So that's, good planning 20 years ago has helped us kind of get there. We're sort of in, it's a double-edged sword. Growth and expansion is awesome. It's going to put pressure on your home prices. And so I think what you're going to see is a lot of redevelopment opportunity. So older homes in, say, the Allen, we'll have some a little bit of that in Fairview, but a lot of it on the Allen side, where you have older neighborhoods that are going to turn over. And so, people are not going to go buy a new home. They're going to go in and buy an old home and remodel it, and that's what's going to bridge the gap.
Right. So that's kind of what I was trying to get at, which is like even the older homes in Allen, which is going to be that what's that for community?
On the east side.
East side of-
Yep.
Right on Angel.
Yep.
Those homes are still $800,000-$900,000, right? That how many younger families are able to come in and
Not many.
Right. That's what I'm
Not unless they have
I'm
parents that
I know
are helping them
The
feel that.
Sloan Corners is probably going to be McKinney ISD, right?
Yes.
So I'm talking more on the Lovejoy ISD
Mm-hmm.
side. What is that you guys are able to do to adjust the?
I don't know that we as Fairview can do a lot of that.
I
You're going to
don't
see
think
maybe
so, yeah.
Lucas. Even Lucas is.
Even there,
They want single family big lots,
Yep.
and that's a trend I think in a lot of suburbs is that's what they want. That presents a challenge for communities to fill the services that they need to fill, because you're now the cost to service that is what it's going to be, and so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, and I think that's one that Lovejoy has to try to figure out, and how can they, because they've built the infrastructure for what they have. How do they keep the pipeline
it's great
full?
infrastructure
Yeah.
too.
And I can answer that from the residential lender side, not the EDC side of it, is that, in my opinion, there's nothing Lovejoy can do. We have a minimum building of 2 acres. So how are you going to
Right.
put an affordable house on 2 acres?
Correct.
So Fairview's kind of, and we're almost built out, so there's really nothing Fairview can do. Well, other communities, like for example, Lucas and Parker, are seeing that trend, and the supply and demand is still there. So why would they build smaller lots where then they have to provide more city services, right? If you can put 4 families on an acre or 1, the amount of city services that they're required to provide, but they get the same revenue.
Right.
And so I see that they've kind of taken Lovejoy's plat, and they're building it out so that our folks looking for affordable housing, they're going to have to move Farmersville. The good news is Farmersville's a 15-minute drive from here.
Yeah.
With Anna, Melissa, Van Alstine, Levon, Josephine, all those areas, you're talking 15 or 20 minutes away. So if they can get in now while there's still affordable housing, because the demand's just going to go up and up and up and.
And some of what Lovejoy is doing is letting students transfer in. Right? There's a
right, the
transfer.
lottery.
There's a method there to do that. And you say, well, that's a lot of maybe it's $10,000 to do that, but $10,000 versus having to own an $800,000 home.
Oh, for sure.
Pay $30,000
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a private school,
Yeah,
right?
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
And that's one thing that we do see a lot is when you're coming from the East or West Coast, what we hear all the time is that they're getting private school education, and it's public school, right?
Right.
They're used
Yes.
to paying, and the quality of the public school, depending on where they were for their private school, might meet or exceed what they were experiencing, what they having to pay for.
Right.
So we're still in this sort of, well, if you've been here and you're from here, you're kind of like, man, this is changing. But from the outside world coming in, they still think it's great.
Right.
They're not as worried about that.
Right.
So you know what was really funny? I want to change the topic. One of the comments you made earlier about being in the DFW Metroplex and being in Fairview, Allen surrounding areas is those 200 dialects or 200 accents or 200 languages that we speak. I think there's probably since I've been living in the DFW area now probably about 8 years or so now, and I got to feel that a lot of people misunderstand Texas. And I think that people think sometimes from the outside they think we're running around on the horses over here, but in fact it's quite the opposite, right?
Yeah,
it's almost in the last 5 years it's changed so dramatically, but the diversity part I think is really the one part is our strength. You know what I mean? Like I think that's one of the greatest things I think is about living in Texas. Solid schools, solid environments, reasonable home pricing. All this helps support a more healthy environment that we all have a chance to enjoy together.
I totally agree with you because I came here from upstate New York. I moved here almost 18 years ago now, and the perception was horses, cowboys, and and when I moved here first, I was in Plano. Completely different. I'm like, oh my God, they don't have horses. Oh my God, they don't have, nobody's running around in cowboy hats and, there's not rodeos everywhere. So it was actually very interesting.
So a lot of people that we talk to have never really experienced Texas, right? Sure. They've seen it on the news and of course, politics and everything, that's kind of what they know. Maybe, the politicians, then they think that represents everybody in Texas.
Right.
There's a great story and she was actually on our podcast where a lady from New York, they were looking for a place to live, and her method was to visit the grocery store because she thought these people are going to be around. And so she's visiting different grocery stores, and they were looking at Arizona, they were looking at different places. Well, she was here in the Dallas-Fort Metroplex. She actually ended up at the Whole Foods here in the Fairview Town Center. And she said the reason we selected this area was we were in line, and they opened up a new line. And she's like, where I came from, it would have been a mad dash. First one there, everybody, all for your own. And she said the lady in front of her turned to her and said, would you like to go? They just opened the line. And she's like, that would have never happened anywhere else, right? And she's like, it was so counter to what she was used to and what she expected that it was like, this is where we're going to be.
The Southern hospitality is real.
We always awesome. Say it starts with the visit, right?
Yeah.
Just come see it. And I understand, like, when you're talking about diversity, they feel like they're not going to be accepted if there's going to be a church on every corner and they're not, everybody's going to judge them, or they're going to be, everybody's got a gun and it's just this, right?
That's the biggest question
And they might have one, you're just not going to know it, right? They'll say that like we do, there is that. But they get here and they realize there's people like me. I can find my community.
Yeah.
I'm accepted even if I'm not in my community. And it really is just, we have this desire, and I think, especially in our community, is we want you to win. You winning doesn't take away from me winning. And people are not used to that. It's a, kind of a fight, and I got to be the winner.
It's not cutthroat.
Yeah, I mean, and we're good businessmen, and we like to compete. But when you win, it's not I'm mad at you for winning. It's good for you. Now I'm going to do my next thing. Or at least that's what we experience.
Yeah, it's wonderful, actually.
Actually, Shafen has been in Texas now for how long?
A little over a year.
A little over a year
now. So I'm new. My background is hospitality and retail.
Okay.
And the question I wanted to ask about was the absence of retail sales tax.
Right.
Is that a strategy? It's something that's always been around. It's something that could change.
I guess. What do you mean the absence of it? Because we have a sales tax.
The retail sales tax. You said there's no retail sales tax.
No.
Or did I misunderstand?
Yeah. So we have a retail sales tax.
Okay.
It's 8.5%, 8.25%, 8.5%. Yeah. Some cities don't have a sales tax dedicated to economic development.
I got you.
Most cities do. So in Texas, one of the things that we did back in the early 90s was say we're going to take a percentage of our sales tax and let the city decide what they want to put that to. So local control is one of the greatest things Texas has done and allowed it to thrive. Is they said, look, at the state level, we don't know what people in Fairview want, so how are we going to try to dictate that? They said, you guys have this 2%, you decide how you want to spend it. And so a lot of the communities adopted an economic development or a community development sales tax and took that money now, and it's dedicated to fund economic development programs. And so that's what has allowed. So, if we have a community, a business that comes in, we may be very thrilled about, and if we want to spend $10,000 a job to get them here, we get to make that decision as Fairview. Allen might look at that and go, that's crazy. We would never do that. We're not going to give them any money. That's the great thing about Texas is it's not the same everywhere, and so you get to decide where you want to be. And that's one of the roles of economic development. People kind of misunderstand what our role is finding the people that, that and the fit that our community wants by having a long-term strategic plan and vision, and then going out and meeting the market and saying, okay, how do I fill that? And then how do I use my resources to get what the city wants? And so that's how we use our sales tax in Texas, and it's kind of really given us the edge over a lot of different states. A lot of states, it's central, top down. You end up with a lot of public officials or the governor saying, well, I want it in this town, and it might not be good for that town, but it's good for the person that helped the governor get elected, right? And so that's what we've battled in other states. It's a little more complicated in Texas because just because you got an economic development offer from Plano doesn't mean you know what Frisco, McKinney, and Allen are going to do. All of those are going to be drastically different based on who you are, what type of business you are, all those different topics. And so it makes it a little more challenging, but that's where the role of economic developer comes in.
Got it. So I guess I'm correcting myself. So there is a retail sales, there's a sales tax, but not a local, I guess, sales tax.
Yeah, so
That's
there's
what
2%, in Fairview, the sales tax is 2% for local and 6.25% for the state.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, so the city gets 1%. We have in Fairview, and this changes in every community what they use the sales tax for, but in Fairview specifically, 0.5 cent goes to economic development, 0.5 cent goes to community development, and then 1% goes to the city.
Got it.
Yeah, and we use that. I mean, that's part of how we got the infrastructure placed back in 2008 and 2009 to build the Fairview Town Center. So, before it was like a driving range or something. I don't know what it was. There was no infrastructure in place. So they did a deal with the developer, put the infrastructure in place. They built the retail development, and now the sales tax from that retail development is helping pay for that infrastructure cost over time.
And what people need to understand, one of the benefits as a resident side here is that by creating that economic development, then bringing in businesses, that takes some of the tax burden off of the residents.
Yeah.
So although that my personal taxes are what I would consider high, it's only because the tax assessed value portion, but the tax rates cumulative are actually very low compared to some of our surrounding communities here in Fairview.
So and thank you for that, Joe. The city has a tax rate extremely low. Now the school districts and depending on where you are in the college, they all get in the county have a tax rate, and a lot of times in Texas the tax rate is predominantly the school is what you're paying for.
Right.
And again, that's how Texas has chosen to pay for its education. And again, part of the offset is you don't have to pay for private education. So yes, your property taxes are a little higher, but you also don't have an income tax and a private school. So
We've got some friends that live in Dallas in downtown, and they're choosing to put their kids into private school education, and they were living in Plano at the time. And we looked at them and said, well, so you live in West Plano, probably very popular school district, right? You've got great public schools, but they're intentionally wanting to put the kids in a private school in downtown Dallas. There was some family stuff involved too, but I find it quite amusing because the simple fact is we are paying a good amount in property tax and we're supporting good education programs. And it's like, people can be very successful, and we've seen a lot of good success stories out of these schools, right?
we're very fortunate in Collin County. The school ratings for just about every school in Collin County is at the top of the list almost every year. There are school districts that that maybe don't do quite as good as others, but in Collin County we're very fortunate.
Yeah, they're all A-rated, especially Lovejoy is in the top 5 in the state.
Yeah.
That's
And
outstanding.
Allen ISD is very
Allen
top.
ISD.
It was one of the main reasons that we moved our family here. I mean, love Allen. And in fact, it was funny until I took a leadership class and got to know more about each individual ISD. Had I known then, it would have been a little bit more difficult decision to make because my initial thoughts were, let's see, 1,600 graduating class, right? My kid's going to get lost. Compared to 300, okay, that's a no-brainer. But as I got to know Allen ISD better, the security that they have on staff, plus they've got 400 kids over here in a culinary arts department. They got another 400 over here separated in a pre-nursing program.
Yeah.
So it's not 1,600 eating lunch together every day. And as I thought through it more, like we talked about earlier, that transition going from Allen ISD, which is very similar to most college campuses.
Yeah.
That would be nothing for a child to then move on to a regular
Yeah, they're
college
used to that,
campus,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's good and bad about both, you know, depending on your particular child. But the whole fact is they're both incredible school districts.
What we love is the choice, right?
Yeah.
You take a tour around, you go to go visit, look at it, feel it, touch it, and whatever fits for you is
Right.
the part, you know. And that's what I think allows us to also succeed is on paper, Collin County looks very similar, right? Like it doesn't matter what town you're in. The diversity, the demographics are basically the same. In fact, I always like to tease David Ellis over at Allen. I know you talked to him that, you know, I just use his demographics. I just scratch out Allen and put Fairview. It drives them nuts, I know. But really, honestly, it is. But what sets us apart are the people, right? The people that live in Fairview are just a little bit different than the people in Allen, and the people in Allen have different personalities than the people in Frisco and McKinney and Plano, and even by neighborhood, right? And so I think that's, you know, your role as a realtor to be able to understand your client and say, what are you looking for, right? And then be able to walk them into the different communities and let them understand this is what you're going to find.
Right. Right.
So, if tell us a little bit more about kind of the economic development plan for Fairview in terms of where do you see the greatest opportunity? Is it in residential development, on commercial development? But where do you see the greatest opportunity if someone was watching this channel right now and they're saying, hey, we want to move to Texas, but like where's our opportunity in that sort of sense?
Yeah, so for Fairview, it's going to be obviously in the commercial side. We were just about built out. I would say if you can buy a home in Fairview today and you're thinking it's expensive, better to get it today than a year from now. It's only going to get more expensive, so it's a really good investment. And that's going to be true, I think, for the next decade because you look at just the projects. If you just took the projects in the Dallas metro that we know are coming, there's 5 to 7 years of just momentum, right?
Yep.
Now, there's a team of economic developers from every city trying to get more. So there's the likelihood that we're going to have more people coming and more projects is only going to grow. And so I think from that standpoint, now would be a good time. It's a good home investment opportunity on the residential side. On the commercial growth, same thing if you're an investor. I mean, I hear this conversation. I had it when I was in Frisco. People were saying, man, $18 a square foot, that's crazy. I'm like, you know, okay, you know. And then, but we knew what we were working on. And I couldn't tell you that, hey, the PGA is about to land and that 18 is about to be 36.
Right.
I was begging you to take it at 18 because I knew, but I couldn't tell you. And then, you know, the PGA lands, they come back and they're just like, oh, it's 36 now. I'm like, I told you. And they're like, well, you didn't tell me the PGA was coming. Well, that's what we're seeing in Allen. You see all the development coming up 121. The Sloan Corners are going to continue to grow. That's going to put more pressure on the Melissas and the Annas and the Farmersville and Princeton. Van Alstyne, it's just going to continue to grow. Yeah. Yes, it's a little green, but if you have the opportunity to buy, I would buy it now because it's only going to get more expensive. Yeah. And for us in Fairview in particular, we've got Sloan Corners, so we're going to see more retail growth. It's an office market. Obviously, we're not an industrial space. Right now, I would say 99% of the projects coming out of other places are almost all industrial based. Which is a little more challenging if you're in the office market because nobody knows, is it a hybrid? Is it all back to office? Is it nobody's working at the office? Everybody's a little scared about that. So you're seeing office projects, but they're just really slow. It's the small office that we're seeing grow, small engineering offices, because there's a lot of engineering projects. So they're growing. So it's 5 and 10s. We're seeing that sort of office growth, but the relocation of 100,000 square foot or 200,000 square foot and building spec office for that market is just not going to happen for a little bit. It's going to be a build to suit for somebody who's made the decision to move. And that's really kind of where we are in the market. I think you're going to see Allen is the same thing. Frisco, McKinney, Plano, they're all in that same boat of that office market. What you're seeing is the tech flex industrial space. I know Allen has some new industrial space. I'm pointing at you, I don't know why, but because you're on the chamber and we've heard the same thing. You've heard the same thing. So they have some industrial space, so that's really good for them. And that's good for us because, again, those are jobs and people that have money to spend, and they're going to spend it in Fairview Town Center. So we enjoy the regional. We We have a very regional look from Fairview standpoint because we know we're just one little cog in Collin County, right? So we're cheering on McKinney and Plano and Frisco, and the PGA, while that's, you think, well, that's way over in Frisco, and the mentality is that, but it's 20 minutes from here, right? That's nothing if you're looking at somebody you want to be 20 minutes away from the PGA. Yes, please. There's people that would love that, and they would love to have a $3 million home and be able to drive 20 minutes and be on a PGA championship course. So those are the kind of odds that we're playing into, is look at what we have to offer in the marketplace that is a little bit different than what you're going to find in most of the other cities around us, and then leveraging that to say, wouldn't it be nice to have your office on our side of the road too? So that's kind of our play for the market.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Closing statements, gentlemen?
Well, it's not closing because we can obviously edit this out, but how many people are in Day One Experts?
So it's just me, 2 partners, and 1 assistant, and then we outsource. We freelance or crowdsource other things that we need, our marketing, writing, some of that other stuff. Any data analytics, that kind of stuff, we hire on demand.
Got it. And are you?
So I'm the founding partner. I'm one of the 3 founding partners. I'm in the business every day. The other 2 are sort of call us when you need us. So if I kill something that's too big for me to eat, or I need their specific expertise. One is more of a private, raise funds. So we also work with private business and small developers that need expertise and raise money and that sort of thing. So we have that arm. And then my other partner has been in the economic development for, 40 years, 50 years, and also as a CCIM and a broker. And so he brings a different set of skill sets. And I'm sort of the go out and market and visionary kind of thing. And they're the bring it back and we'll clean it and fix it and get it ready to go. So it makes us very lean, and we're able to provide services like for Fairview and at a fraction of the cost, but they still get the expertise of having that whole team.
Gotcha. Might as well ask you on camera. Is there room for like an apprentice or a friend? Or
This sounds really
cool.
Sounds fun, doesn't it?
It does sound fun.
We are. We were looking at internships because we're like a small business. We've got to figure out how to grow and scale.
Sure.
But it's just a challenging thing because it is it's just a unique. Economic development is a very unique skill set. It's just not clean. Every day is something different. One phone call changes your complete, and we're making generational decisions. That's what I tell the board members. They're not making a decision for today or tomorrow. Planning and zoning, city councils, what I try to get them to understand is they're making generational decisions. This isn't about making people happy today. It's 10 years from now, we're going to look back and say, man, I'm glad we did that. Or we're going to go, we missed an opportunity. And you can't recover from that, And so it's a really important job to kind of have and to navigate. It's extremely hard.
I'm sure, yeah.
You got a lot of competing interests, right? You got the business owner trying to make business and developers trying to make money, and then you got cities that are trying to make, that are or can be challenged by change, and so worried about what does that mean for our community? Does it change the feel of it? And so you're kind of trying to work both sides. Every day we just get up and try to be a difference maker, try to solve problems, and try to help the people that we're challenged or entrusted to help. So
I want to add that as part of the community, it's been fun and enjoyment for me that they'll bring out a special vote for something that Dave needs to get approved, right? And some of them have passed, and some of them have failed, and some got support, and some didn't. But just knowing that your vote really, really is important on some of those issues has really made us feel like part of the community, that we're making a difference. We actually have a say-so in what goes on around here. And I think that puts Fairview really on the map compared to other communities, because our population's small.
Yeah, it is. I mean, not to put the pressure on, but each decision really does matter because it's a much smaller number that we're working with, and so. But we're fortunate. People love this town. Yeah. And it's fun to work in a town where people love it. It's not the case. Some people really you're like, why are you living here? You hate it so bad. Why are you here? But they don't move. They don't try to change. They just love to hate where they live. And that is not at all Fairview. We're very fortunate that, man, these people love it. They don't want to. They don't even want to cross Stacy to go to Allen, right? And Allen's the same thing. Very fierce and loyal to Allen businesses. That's a pretty special place.
Even my kids. I don't want to go to town.
Yeah.
I'm like, I pick is 6 minutes from your house. What do you mean go to town, right? And so.
I like some of the new retail stuff coming up along Fairview, along Stacy Roadside.
We go out there all the time because we're right down the street at Stacy and Angel.
Yeah.
So and I have like little kids as well. So and they do a lot of kid friendly events at the town center.
Yeah, yeah, it's built for family. That's really what it's built for, which is sort of interesting. You think, well, it's an older population, but if you think about it, a lot of the population are grandparents. So you got a lot of kids coming, and they're spending summers with their grandparents, and so it really makes a nice little mix. So
I think that I know we probably got into the most of it, but I know you mentioned it earlier before as well regarding that. Those are townhomes or are those apartments going in? Is it behind the Macy's?
So that's all apartments. So it's not next to Dillard's. They took down a piece of retail space that was never really built out. So they took that down. They're putting units there. They're expanding the parking garage behind it. And then over by where it used to be the community garden, it was really just an open space that was supposed to be for another hotel that never really got developed. They're putting some units there. So all total, we'll have 400 units all total between the two projects here for Lincoln. And again, it's for the town center. That's an incredible. That's incredibly good news for the businesses there because of the density that's going to bring. We already have some people living above. We have the second story and third story apartments, but it's going to add just that many more doors. Just will add to the density and help support the businesses that are in there.
Are you looking for another hotel in the complex?
No, they switched that out. So I don't know. Maybe Billingsley probably has could have that site. There's about 100 acres on 75 that is owned by another landowner. Could be an opportunity. They're playing sort of a wait and see. It's kind of funny. It's one of those things where we tried to go in and get that land before because we knew Billingsley was coming. And again, you never know with landowners. The challenge is, if you don't control it, sometimes you can bring something in and lose it because you didn't control the land. And so that was one of the first things we did was try to buy that land, and they just were not a seller. And it was like, cut us a check and we'll if we cash it, it. And you're like, well, that doesn't work, right? And we had a limited time because we knew the Billingsley stuff was going to be announced, and so it's announced. Luckily, though, they've now become a land seller, so they're actively looking for different projects and kind of. They've got a list going. Last time I talked to them, they had 3 or 4 people on the list that were, if that guy doesn't want it, I want it. And so that's really good. What they're going to build out, we'll just kind of wait and see. But it's on 75, so it's going to be something good.
Cool.
Man, this has been really insightful.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this guy, he will.
I appreciate that.
This might be me calling you out, maybe not. But how's the podcast going? How many episodes have you been?
Gosh,
what's the frequency of episodes?
It's about the same as us.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it would be nice to have. We shoot for 2 a month. Realistically, we get 1 a month in. We had a little bit of a hiccup because our producer, the back end guy, he passed away, and so we had to switch companies. And so and when we did that, you got to go get. There's a lot of stuff behind that you got to kind of work through. So we're getting back. In fact, I'm recording one after this. This afternoon, we'll do it. We're doing a podcast series. We're going to be featuring women entrepreneurs. Again, promoting the We Inspire Women's event in November. So we're going to kind of do a series of women entrepreneurs running up to that. But yeah, I love to do it because you just sit down and hear people's stories, and we don't often give people the opportunity to share their story.
No, that's the whole thing. I mean, how did they get here? What are you all about? Tell us about what you're doing.
And they're all different.
Where do you need help?
Yeah.
Kind of random. We had one lady that started a nonprofit. She has the Community Garden Kitchen. And it's a free place that you can go and have a meal. It's like a restaurant, so it's not like a food pantry sort of thing. I mean, it's real food, dinner, you sit down and eat. And it started because her and some friends were like in a little book club or Bible study or something, and they kind of got to chatting about, homeless and the hungry in Collin County, and they didn't think there was a need. And somebody was in the group and said, "Oh no, there's a lot more here than you think." And they just decided a year later they're like building a building, and they worked a contract with a school, and now they've got a commercial kitchen. And that's the person that lives in Fairview. It's a person who's retired and was like, then saw a need and filled it. And like, you don't want to be around. I want to be around people like that. I want that story so that I know, yeah, man, I want to live in a place where people have purpose and they're looking for something beyond just, themselves.
On the way here, I listened to a little bit of the Courtney Baker, Dr.
Ah, she's awesome too.
Such a cool story, yeah.
Yeah, she's another artist now. She started this business, but that's really like whatever. Now she's into art.
I was inspired right there. I was like, wow.
Yeah, all over the nation. And she lives in Fairview. Had no idea if we hadn't had the podcast, I would have never gotten to meet and know that, because it's her clientele is not here. It's elsewhere. It's everywhere.
But is she locally? Again, I didn't finish that episode, but does she have an impact local?
So in the larger art world too, because she's an artist, so there's a lot of opportunity for the arts, and she's a big promoter of that on a regional basis, not just in Fairview. Fairview has a local arts, what are they called? Advisory board, but really it's more of I would say a regional in the McKinney Frisco art scene. But that's the thing now she does, because now we know it. So if we need to purchase something, or we wanted to give some sort of gift, or if we wanted to do like a donation for something, we could purchase someone's local art, donate that as it's kind of this connection. And she's a woman entrepreneur, so she can now inspire other ladies that, hey, like she'll tell you, I was nothing special. It was just like, I had this really awful beginning, and I had to, I was hungry, and I had to figure out how to feed myself. And
through it,
it's an incredible story, Thank you for asking about that. Yeah, that's awesome.
The last thing I wanted to add is that I think that our Allen Fairview Chamber, I've been involved in a lot of chambers. I know that you have too in your career. I can tell you, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I can tell you the most productive chamber I've ever been involved with, as far as being hyperlocal and referring hyperlocal. I mean, the majority of the people that I know, if they need a service, they will go to the directory for the Allen Fairview Chamber and find that service, because they've all been vetted. And that doesn't happen in just every community.
No, I mean, I think that comes from the desire of the communities to support local. And so the chamber provides that conduit, because how would you ever know who's the local guy, right? Or lady, doesn't have to be a guy. And really the chamber serves that really well. And they are very supportive when you do ribbon cuttings and ambassadors and the networking. It is, if you're a business owner in our area, it really is an opportunity that you're missing if you're not engaged. And so thank you for mentioning that. That's really good. They're a very good partner for economic development. We do the We Inspire event in conjunction with them. We'd never be able to do that on our own. And so we leverage the work, their infrastructure, I would say, to be able to host that event. So we work with them, and they allow us to be able to put that on. It happens in Fairview at the Acacia's event venue, which is a woman-owned event venue. And again, it's about, we get to use the chamber to support her, and then we have this event, and it all works really well together. So very cool.
So just a couple of things. So if you want to follow up a little bit more, if you're interested in the property business, contact us at reconnection.com. If you want to talk to Dave sometime, d1experts.com.
Yeah, that's day one's for Fairview. It's fairviewtxedc.com. And then if you want the podcast, it's gettingneighborly.com. Very easy.
And if you want to talk to Joe, Joe is the man to talk to if you're looking for a mortgage today.
Invest Residential Lending, you can find me on themortgageprojoe.com is the easiest way.
You can also meet him on Getting Neighborly podcast, because he's one of our residents, and he did a show with us.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal. It's been such a great conversation today, and really, I don't know, I would love to do it again sometime, so this has been awesome.
Yeah,
so,
let's make it a yearly thing. It'd be awesome.
I love it.
All right, Kiran, thank you.
Thank
man.
you so
Appreciate
much.
it. Thanks,
Was that a
guys.
boundary?